Point, I just want to make this as a foundation for my contributions to say I'm a proud supporter and a lover and a follower of Muammar Mohammed Minyar al-Gaddafi, commonly known as Colonel Gaddafi. And the reason for me loving and following the guy is that before the US NATO attacks in 2011, Libya had achieved economic independence with its own water, own food, own oil, own money, an own state-owned bank. It has risen under Gaddafi from one of the poorest to the richest in Africa. Education and medical treatment were free. Having a home was considered a human right. Libyans participated in an original system of democracy. They also boasted the largest irrigation system, the Great Man-Made River Project. And Gaddafi was embarking on a project to spread this model throughout Africa. And this is my starting point because I've had a lot of speakers before me, some for, some against, some not so for, not so against the concept of Pan Africanism. But I just wanted to touch on that and to also give a few background or descriptive remarks of what Pan Africanism. It's about a bond and solidarity among all Africans in Africa and in the diaspora. And the birth of Pan Africanism was as a resistance to enslavement, colonization, and imperialism. And Pan Africanism is also an attempt to return to a singular traditional African concepts about culture, society, and values. But because our engagements have mostly been centered around economic policies and economic circumstances that South African citizens find themselves in. On that question, on the economic policy question, I refer you guys to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which was signed or entered into in January 2018, and so far it has a number of countries which have ratified. And I think it's an important document for the development for the economic development of the continent. So I invite you guys to go and read that in terms of, or to understand the concept of Pan-Africanism from an economic policy perspective. And maybe you can also read an article by Dr. Mukisa Itai, who was the Secretary General of the UNCTAD. But having said all that, I mean, for Pan-Africanism, or for Pan-Africanist project or the vision to be effective or to be realized or for it to work, do we have to have free movement, a borderless continent? For us Africans to maintain a bond that I've already referred to, the solidarity that I've already referred to, do you have to live in a borderless continent? And that those are the two questions that I want us to think about throughout our engagements and post the space, taking into consideration the Pan-Africanist principle. And while it might be naive to think that imperialism and colonialism no longer exist, we take into consideration the white monopoly capital, would it be unreasonable of South Africans or of me to say that the approach to Pan-Africanism, I've already described what Pan-Africanism is, at least in my own understanding. Would it be unreasonable to say that the approach to Pan-Africanism, as I've heard a lot of speakers alluding to, that it can't be the same to that which was applied during the enslavement, the imperialist, and the colonial eras? The manner in which we show our solidarity to each other as Africans, the manner in which South Africa and South Africans show solidarity to other African nations and African nationals, it can't be the same to that which was applied during the apartheid eras. For instance, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and other African states, they accommodated South Africa during its apartheid era. And I think this is what people are always using as a form of reasoning behind us having this sort of immigration. They accommodated South Africa during that era, which could be labeled as a civil war era. Now, in Africa, in particular, the West and Central Africa, they are continuously dealing with civil wars, which then raises a need for refugee and asylum solidarity. So, the next question is South Africa accommodating Africans for refugee or asylum purposes? Or is South Africa being guilt-tripped into accommodating people for economic and social reasons? The South African economy is currently in recession, and quite frankly, it has been in recession for a while. I mean, you look at the unemployment rate and the GDP for reference. So, South Africa, both as a result of its own citizens, as a result of us as South Africans, and of course, largely as a result of immigrants, it has become a lawless and an ungovernable state. And I'm saying this, I'll refer you to 2019, if not 20, where we saw immigrants in Johannesburg CBD. They attacked law enforcement officials without any response from South African government, from us as the citizens. So, and even the various embassies within the country, they didn't even issue statements to condemn the actions of their own citizens, which they exist to champion the interest of. So that then tells us that we don't have an effective immigration system. The system does exist, and an immigration system is there. But then the corruption and the fraud, the unaccountability, and the lack of governance makes they make it ineffective, effectively making it broken and overwhelmed. So my view is that the Department of Home Affairs and the public protector was here, and she made submissions or points in terms of what the law says. And as a legal scholar as well, I stand by those, or rather I echo what she said in terms of policies and papers. But the Department of Home Affairs, before they continue drafting other white papers, as we had the public protector referring to, which they won't implement or enforce, by the way, they must go on a long project of governance and accountability within its ranks, and it must root out the corruption that exists in its offices, but also at the borders, because the Department of Home Affairs is the first line of accountability, and the minister, as the head of the ministry, must stop giving us, Aaron Motsoaledi. Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi is a very outspoken person. He loves press conferences and all, but he must stop giving us press conferences on how many foreign nationals are in the country or how many were deported. But he must focus on fixing the ministry itself, because we can deport all foreign nationals today, but if we remain with the same corrupt, fraudulent, unaccountable staff at Home Affairs, both at administration level and at the borders, we will be back to square one in 2 years. We will be back to this same crisis that we have. Go and study the immigration systems of UK and USA and China, of course. And as much as these are developed economies, but their models on the immigration models, they show a strict compliance system which enables them to have an accurate or semi-accurate head count. Yes.